And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. You can download that in your phone. It's free, and you can watch and listen to our program daily in its entirety between 12 and 2 o'clock. Always go back and check us out if you happen to miss anything as well. Across all social media platforms, at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is also our text line, and you can get a hold of us there. Any chat room that's available, wherever you are watching or listening to our program, you can also send us a message. Darren will pop it up on the screen here, and we'll make it a part of our program. We appreciate all those who've been doing that lately, and we've been trying to get you in as much as we can, just like we're going to get Mike Morgan, Mike Yuva, and Gene Sapakoff into our program today consecutively. 12:30, 1 o'clock, and 1:30 this afternoon. Citadel, South Carolina, they'll tangle tonight at Founders Park in Columbia. Gamecocks, of course, lost 2 of 3 this weekend. Citadel was swept this weekend, so both looking for a win. Carolina's going to hit the road for Ole Miss coming up this weekend in a very valuable series to them. The Dogs will be back at home against VMI. So an important ball game tonight. We'll see. Carolina, of course, if they win this, they will be 3-0 against the Dogs here in 2021. We're going to talk some regional stuff, bowl season, maybe an idea to help it a little bit. Tomorrow, NIL stuff is happening at the house. We'll talk some more expansion. The draft is coming up this week. Got a lot to get to today. We'll talk about the Braves as well. But first, Darren, it is National Babe Ruth Day. So happy Babe Ruth Day to you and all the baseball fans out there.
And how fitting is it that on National Babe Ruth Day, it's one day late because it could have been yesterday, and we can flip this calendar around because it means absolutely nothing anyway. But if we flip this calendar and make it one day earlier, Babe Ruth Day would have been, I believe, 100 years to the day since Babe Ruth was pitching while leading the majors in home runs, just like Shohei Ohtani did yesterday for the Angels.
What Ohtani's doing is something special. I'm excited to speak with Corey because it's so early in the year, and obviously a lot of things can change. But Ohtani, Trout, Jacob Degrom, I mean, there's some things going on in baseball. Degrom is averaging 98.2 miles per hour per pitch. 98.
And he's hitting 500.
That's average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not fair. And the last time he pitched, he didn't come out of the game. I know that because it was against the Nationals. And that's not – if he pitches, there's got to be a rule. If we're into changing all these rules for baseball, when DeGrom pitches, he must come out of the game. That way the other team has a chance. That's the new rule.
I mean, it's unbelievable what he's doing. I mean, we're seeing and he's a young guy still. I mean, he's only been in the big leagues, 5 years, Darren? I mean, this guy he's special. He's special. And he's had, you think about how many wins he could have under his belt, right? Think about how many he could have throughout his career that he doesn't because they couldn't score any runs for him for the longest time.
They still basically can't. The last time he pitched, he had 2 hits. He scored twice. He knocked in a run. He still is the Mets' best offense when he pitches. It'll surprise you. It did to me. I think he's 33. I think he's the second oldest guy on the Mets roster. So he's been around longer than it feels. Yeah.
Wow. I thought he was probably around 30, so I'm a little off on that. But whatever, 33, who cares? She's throwing 98 miles. That's an average pitch speed. It's not what he's topping out at. It's an average pitch speed. It's really remarkable what he's been able to do. Again, 843-321-8893. If you want to send us a message, send it on over. Pop it in. If you're on Twitter, send us a message there, Facebook, YouTube, wherever. We'll get it right into our program. All right, speaking of interesting baseball stories, here's one for you. The Braves win last night. They score 8 runs. And it might be because of Dansby Swanson, that is, their shortstop, who decided that he was going to burn sage throughout Truist Park. The bowels of Truist were burning with sage. Yes, sage, yesterday, before the game. It's something that him and his girlfriend, who, by the way, is a U.S. women's soccer player, do around their home from time to time. And he said, look, I've been thinking about this for a while, and if we were going to really struggle, I was going to bring this stuff out. It's early in the year. They brought it out. They scored 8 runs. They almost gave up too many and lost, but they didn't. They won the game. Every bit of area I could find in this place, I went into. I might have to bring some tomorrow too, Swanson said. All year, I've been like, if it gets to a point, I'm bringing sage in here. And I think yesterday was finally to that point. I pretty much walked every bit of area you can find in this place. I went into it. It was fun. They win.
My wife is all about smells and like rocks and gems and how they can influence a person's aura and stuff like that. So I guess this is sort of along those lines, but whatever works. It's baseball. There have been crazier things than a dude burning sash in a clubhouse to get a hex off. We all saw Major League. We had Jobu in the rum. We've got crazier things. Whatever works. It's baseball.
Brian Snicker said after the game as well, Darren, this was pretty good. He had to put it right under my nose. I'm so clogged up with the pollen and everything. I couldn't even smell it, but I'll plant some of it. I could put sage in my soup. That's what Brian Snicker had to say after the game. By the way, Swanson went yard as well. If you put sage around the ballpark and you homer, I've got a feeling you're going to probably do that again today. We all know how suspicious baseball players are about shoelaces and socks and belts and when to wash your pants and everything else. I imagine that Truist Park and everything around there today is going to smell like sage at some point in time. So,
yeah, Craig, I've got diffusers in the house. I didn't buy them. I don't really know what they are, but I know they do something, and there are these, smells that come out of them.
Yeah, exactly. I love David Shelton here. When we said Happy Babe Ruth Day, he popped in and said Ohtani before there was Ohtani. He's right. Babe Ruth was Ohtani, especially when he was in Boston. Yeah, that was over 100 years ago. There's people don't even today's generation doesn't even realize that the baseball was around 100 years ago. Some of them, matter of fact, today's generation has forgotten that athletics were around 100 years ago, or 30 years ago, because I saw this morning a list of the most electric college football players of all time, and they're only since about 1995. Like, dude, did you? I can name Barry Sanders. I can name Rocket Ismail. I can name a bunch of players that were pretty good. They didn't even sniff the list over Tyrann Mathieu, whatever his name is. So whoever came up with that list, maybe go back and check the record books. The sport was played before the mid-90s. Did you see that list? Did you see what I'm talking about?
I saw the list, and I thought so much of it. I never saved it or made a graphic for it because I saw it. And I laughed. And then I saw some other folks like retweeting it saying, my God, this is spot on. And I laughed again. Yeah, Reggie Bush was really exciting. Vince Young was really exciting. But what was it, a list of 10, 15, maybe?
Yeah. I think let me say this. I do think Reggie Bush should be on that list. He's the best player I've ever seen personally in college football. But yeah, dude. And it was like a freaks list, right? Wasn't it like a freaks list? So is it just offense or is it defense or what?
No. Well, Matthew was defense. So it was not just an offensive list.
Hester was on there.
Yep.
But they were also kick returners.
Yeah, sure. that's exciting.
If it's a freaks list, Clowney should be on there, right? Clowney was like the freak of freaks. Yes. Yeah, Craig Herschel Walker. Again, I could name a bunch that more than likely deserve to be on that list, but that's okay. All right, let's put along here. Some stuff we didn't pop in yesterday. So Darren and I were wrong, and we shouldn't be wrong, but we were wrong at the end of last week. The NCAA has mandated a max 50% capacity rule to host regionals, and you can't host if you're planning on hosting more than 50%. I do think this personally is garbage because the schools in Mississippi, the schools in Texas, they have had literally, guys, I want to tell you this. I'm telling you the truth because I've done the research to make sure. Zero problems with COVID because of allowing fans into the ball games. None. I mean, they're plummeting. Everything is plummeting in all those areas. But the NCAA, of course, they have to control everything that they can control. Don't walk on the floor in March Madness without an NCAA cup. God forbid it be a water bottle. No more than 50% capacity. So there's going to be some people who are not happy with that. If South Carolina, which is the only school in this state at this point in time that has a possibility of being awarded a regional, and probably today would be, they are at 50%. So they're right in line with it, but they will not have the option to increase that. But the schools in Mississippi, the schools in Florida, the schools in Tennessee, the schools in Texas, places like that, yeah, you're going to have to back the truck up. You're not going to be able to put all those folks in the stands if you're hosting a regional, Darren. Thanks to our good buddies up there in Indianapolis who apparently have nothing better to do.
So I'm cool with it. I don't have a problem with this at all. And here's why. Because the regional sites will be all spread out. It's not fair to, let's say, teams seeded 3 and 4, even the second seed in the, let's say, Texas regional, or say one of the Mississippi regionals. I'm just assuming that's going to happen.
Yeah,
it's not fair for the second, third, and fourth seeds to be going up against a full raucous crowd when another regional, say South Carolina's, is only going to be 50%. So the 2, 3, and 4 seeds that come to Columbia, again, this is all hypothetical, but the 2, 3, and 4 would, if you're going to a place that's packed, you'd think you got the short end of the stick, because instead of going there in a tougher environment, you could have gone to, say, Columbia, where it wouldn't be as raucous.
Yeah, I totally disagree.
I know.
Well, regionals have always been full. I mean, that's nothing different. You should want to play in front of a packed house instead of 2,000 people or 1,000 people or whatever it's going to be. The fans, you got to go play the games no matter what. This is the way it's always been. Some people can look, here's the reality of it. It's never always going to be fair, because Cal State Fullerton Regional is going to put 1,500 in there, and Ole Miss is going to put 15,000 in there. That's just the way that it is. I mean, that's life in baseball, and that's life in different parts of the country, and you still got to get through it. I think this is supposedly about health and safety, and it's been safe. They've safely put all these people in these ballparks. The evidence proves that. The NCAA is wrong. Dr. Fauci, even just on TV 2 days ago, said outside, you're good to go. Take your mask off. And they've been doing that in all these states. And the NCAA has, I think, once again, overstepped their boundaries. I think they have no business mandating who should. And now I will say this. Recommendations, I have no problem with that. The NCAA has an obligation to keep people safe. If local, like, what I wouldn't want is, let's say, it doesn't matter, Darren, pick a place on the map, and the NCAA says, yeah, you're good to go, put 100% in there, and local folks say, hey, man, we're not good there yet, and here's why, and they have the evidence to support that, and there's a safety issue. Okay, I totally agree. The NCAA, you're being cooperative with local health and safety guidelines, local governments, all that included. But when the local health departments and the local government says, look, here's our evidence, we're good, we're not having any issues here, and the NCAA says, no, we're in control from Indianapolis, and you're not in control from your own ballpark, I got a major problem with that. And they've been doing this for years anyways with other stuff.
The point of what you used with, Cal State Fullerton or whichever California state school that you used out there, and the ballpark not being that big versus Mississippi or so, that is a good point. I do understand what they're doing, though. I get it. I understand why fans will be upset, particularly the fans that have been packing stadiums already. I understand why they're going to be upset, but it also does still make sense to me from a competitive advantage, disadvantage standpoint.
Yeah, I disagree. If it was me, and I don't care what team I played on, I would say send me to the place that's going to put the most people in the ballpark. I want to play in front of everybody I can. I don't want to go to one of these little dumpy West Coast stadiums like UCLA where nobody's going to show up and watch me play. I want to be in Oxford. I want to be in Columbia, in Lindsey Nelson, in Knoxville, wherever. You know, if you can't fit people in the stands, that's your own damn problem. Who gives a crap? The rest of these people can, and they deserve to. So we'll agree to disagree there, but I think that the NCAA has totally overstepped their boundaries. And but here's the other thing. This is where this is what frustrates me. They've provided zero evidence as to why. None. They have literally put nothing out there that says here is why we are doing this. It's just that's it, and nobody questions it. Moves along, which is we're like sheep. It's crazy. Tyler, I want to be in Omaha. I'm with you, and it will be 50% in Omaha. Which correct me where I'm wrong here. 25,000. That's what they seat up there. So about 12.5, right?
I'm not sure how big TD Ameritrade is.
Okay, 25-30.
It'll still be a good atmosphere. Omaha will still be a good atmosphere because you'll still have the pageantry in Omaha. It won't be the packed stadium, but it'll be a good atmosphere.
Absolutely, yeah. It'll still be a good atmosphere. It's still Omaha. Mm-hmm. You're still on the grand stage, and I really wish that they would wait. I mean, it's April. Like this is in June. Maybe make these determinations here somewhere down the line, but why not? 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is also our text line, and you can get a hold of us there. Good to hear from all of you today. Tyler, Bo knows. He was talking about Bo Jackson as part of that weird list. Yeah, where the hell was Bo Jackson on that? He's got the greatest poster. All right, which poster, totally off topic, which poster would you rather have if you had to put one up, maybe behind you for our shot? Bo Jackson or the Michael Jordan dunk from the free throw line?
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Michael Jordan one where he's got his arms spread out. I mean, his entire wingspan. Remember that one?
I do. But yeah. I do you like that one better than the free throw jump?
It was the first one that came to mind when you started down that path. But, I mean, Bo Jackson with the bat and the shoulder pads and just ripped.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to say I want to be like Bo. Easy.
Are those the two most infamous posters in sports?
Oh, there's certainly two of the ones that come to mind, top of mind the most for
every
me.
Time. These are the only two I ever think about. I mean, I'm trying to, and I'm with you. I had that Jordan poster through college. I don't know what happened to it. I'd like to find that thing. But if you think about all the posters, like the posters used to be a thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if are posters still a thing for kids these days. I don't know if they were when we were kids. Posters and pennants.
Pennants were huge. My whole, and I've said this before, right? I'm obviously a Nationals fan, but I grew up a Pirates fan because I grew up without a National League team close to me. So my entire bedroom was Pirates wallpaper, and there were pennants like all the way around the top of my childhood bedroom. That it was Pirates, it was multiple things, but the wallpaper was Pirates, and then there were posters all over the place. I don't know if it's still a thing though for the kids. My daughter doesn't have. Well, maybe she's got like an Elsa one, but that's about it.
Posters, pennants, baseball cards. I mean, that was my life growing up. And you meet out in the park or wherever we played our pickup baseball games, and whoever won would get somebody's rookie card, or whoever won the home run derby and things like that. I don't know if kids do that stuff anymore. They just sit on their little gadgets and play all day.
Yes, exactly. And they play their games that way.
What's happened to the world, damn? What happened to going through ditches and coming home because a snake was attached to your boot and you couldn't get it off? Maybe that was only me.
That never happened to me.
When you grew up in Sea Farm, it did.
Yeah.
12:20 on a Tuesday afternoon, a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. So one of the things we're going to talk to Mike Morgan today about is the college football playoff expansion potentially coming our way in the near future. How near? I don't know, but at some point in time in the next few years. But one of the big questions, Darren, and this has been a question for a while. We've talked about this is, what do we do about bowl season? Because when they went to the 4-team playoff, I don't think this is any secret, right? It, with the exception of a couple, it made the bowls feel rather irrelevant nationally. Now, the bowls themselves matter to fan bases. They don't matter as much to some superstar players, but they also matter to everybody else on the team. I mean, if this is your last ride, you're not going to the NFL or something like that. The bowl matters. If you are going to be a first-round draft pick in the NFL draft and you're going to go play in the Bahamas Bowl, probably doesn't matter a whole lot to you. So they're not that relevant anymore in the grand scheme. You know, it's all about the playoff. So let me ask you this. If it's all about the playoff, why not expand as much as you can and play the bowls to begin the season? And let me ask you this. And look, I don't have all the answers. You and I were texting back and forth, and you were asking me questions. I was like, I don't know, I haven't thought about it enough. So I'm trying to create. I really want to hear the people that say, well, that might work. I want to hear all that. I see Tim Frisbee's tweeting at us, so he's obviously watching or listening. I want to hear what guys like Tim Frisbee have to say. He played. If attendance is an issue with bowl games, right? Like if you're a 7-5 Penn State team before the playoff, let's say Penn State plays well towards the end of the year, they finish 7-5, they get invited to the Outback Bowl. Probably a lot of Nittany Lions going to be excited to spend New Year's Day in Florida versus Pennsylvania playing against an SEC program. You're 7-5. Football has energized you a little bit. Let's go. Well, that's not really the case anymore because it's turned into a playoff type system. So if fans aren't traveling, if you're not getting the 15, we used to see 15, 20,000 fans per program go to all these games. If you're getting 5 and 6 and maybe 10, but 5 and 6, some of the players are opting out. Why not play bowl games at the beginning of the season?
The first thing I thought of when you suggested this morning, and we were kind of going back and forth, I was like, how is it even going to work? I mean, do you qualify for a bowl game this year and play it next year to begin the season? Then the more we went back and forth, I don't know if necessarily making it a neutral site like down at the Outback Bowl or in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium or anywhere else, really. Take out the ones that are going to be used for the actual playoff. And then the other bowl games. I don't know if you necessarily need to go and have it on site, but I do like the idea of more marquee matchups to start the year. So you can brand it as the Chick-fil-A kickoff. You can brand it as the Outback Bowl or Outback Steakhouse kickoff or something like that. And then just have the game, whether it's on a campus, it can be a neutral site, but that's what, I mean, sitting here right now, getting ready for football season, the first thing that comes to my mind is Clemson plays Georgia to open the year. That right. Before I think of who Penn State opens with, I'm thinking when football season starts, Clemson and Georgia play.
Right.
And I want to see what happens. If we have more of those games, that becomes interesting. And then maybe at the end of the year, you do away with some of the bowl stuff, give the swag bags and all the accoutrements, if you will, that the players typically get for a bowl game, give it to them up front because they're in that branded game. And then you're building the anticipation throughout the offseason for the beginning of the football season. So I think you've got a workable plan here. I don't know exactly the right way to work it, but I think you do have a workable plan if we can just make more marquee kickoff games.
Well, I think you bring up an interesting point, certainly, and I agree. And I do also think that a lot of teams are starting to trend more back towards Darren the home and home, and rightfully so. I'm a big fan of home and homes versus some of the neutral site season kickoff games. The Gamecocks and Virginia Tech will play in Atlanta in a few years. You mentioned Clemson and Georgia. But I think you just made a really good point. And again, I don't have all the answers. It's something I kind of rolled out there, and I wanted to engage in conversation with whomever is willing to. But I think you make an interesting point. Who opens the season this coming year? And the first thing you thought of was, well, it's Clemson and Georgia and Charlotte. And so if you are a bowl, is that something like, does it have to be something that, well, the Outback Bowl is only played in Tampa, and here's why? Or is it something that's flexible, where the Outback Bowl can say, hey, look, we're still a Big Ten SEC tie-in, but we've negotiated the 2025 Outback Bowl in State College, Pennsylvania, between Penn State and Florida. to open the season. Or even, another neutral site somewhere where they could rent somebody's ballpark or whatever it is, maybe between the two. Or I don't know. I don't have the answers. But what I'm trying to do is not eliminate bowl season.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point of this. Not acting like I've got some big game plan here. It's not about me. But if you know it's going to happen, you know this is happening. The more we expand the playoff, which I'm a fan of and you're a fan of, to what extent we're all fans of is different. But we are mostly fans of expanding the playoff. But if you do that, it is going to dilute the bowl seasons even more. And so how do we save them? Because I do think bowl season, Darren, is one of the sacred sports events or times of this country's fabric. Bowl season has been, I think, great for the sport of football. It's been, I'll speak personally, it's been great for family. It's been great for fellowship. Some of my grandest memories my entire life are trips to Tampa, Florida to watch South Carolina play or wherever, Orlando, to go play, and you take your whole family and you go rent a couple of condos or whatever, and you go have fun for a few days. So I hope that they can find a way to preserve this. I just don't know how. And it was something I thought of.
As you went along with that, I started thinking, well, if we go with your plan, it eliminates bowl season. If we put the Outback Bowl, whether it's in Tampa or in-state college with branding all over the field, if we put that at the beginning of the year, then you're not going to, multiple, not just the Outback Bowl, then you won't have them then at the end of the year, because that will count on your schedule. Bowl games are an extra game added to your schedule. So maybe we go back to the weird idea of, if I qualify for a bowl game this year, that game gets played as like week 0 next year. And that's my bowl game. And then I go back to state college and start what then becomes the regular season. And then if you qualify for the playoff, you're one of the 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 teams that are going to be in that playoff. The bowl season, I don't have the same feels, right, for bowl season. I've been to bowl games. To me, they are far more important to the coaches and to the players. And the way the game, the way the world is trending right now, the way technology is, attendance is down because it's so easy to just not spend a ton of money and get a better product when you're sitting on your couch, because you've got all the angles. You can take the audio for what you want. You can mute the guys, you can have it up, whatever. But you're on your couch. We've all got HD TVs. It's going to sound good. It's going to look good. That's why the attendance is going down. It's more important for the teams, the coaches, the players to get those extra practices in for the upcoming year than it is for a fan base. That's how I've always seen it. And I think I'd get a lot of pushback down here in the South saying that, but that's how I've always seen it.
Yeah, I think there's a large percentage of most fan bases that do love the bowls. If you've ever been to one, you love it. I do like what I think what we've got here. A couple of comments. In your example, you could have that game in the Steelers Stadium. It brings the northern cities in, which is a good point. I'm engaged in conversation. I haven't thought about that. Most bowl games are in the South, and if they're in the North, like Detroit, I think whatever they call it now, it used to be the Motor City Bowl. It's in a dome. They try to get you into a more, a better area of the country for good weather and things like that. But he's right. This could be something that happens all across the nation in September, early September, to be able to kind of kick off football season. Let's hit a timeout. We do have Mike Morgan coming up next. Mic'd up with Mike Morgan, powered by Wando Power Equipment. Let's see what he's got to say. He's been a part of plenty of bowl games in his career, and he'll join us right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every 2021 Tiguan, $3,500 off. Every 2021 Atlas, $5,300 off. Every new Volkswagen available with 0 down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump?
Strike 2.
If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save $5,300 on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with 0 down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes V-Dub.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Spring is officially here, and there's no better place to bring it in than the Dog and Duck. 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Park West, Bell Hall, and Clements Ferry Road, all of them with gorgeous outdoor seating to take advantage of their daily food and drink specials. Through the end of April, $5 Sweetwater pints. Food specials like Taco Tuesday and the Game Day Burger every Wednesday. It's all available at Dog and Duck. There are 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee, but guess what? I can always listen to the JB and Goldwater show because they are always live, loud, and online.
Pink, 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 pink.
All right, 12:32. Welcome back. Tuesday afternoon, April the 27th, the JB and Goldwater show driven by Stokes Volkswagen. I want to remind you that tonight the Citadel in South Carolina will get going at 7 o'clock at Founders Park up in Columbia. South Carolina will start Jack Mahoney in that ball game. And I believe that, excuse me for a second while I turn my head to the right. Yes, the Dogs will start Lathan Todd, the sophomore righty tonight, who's 2-5 with a 7.46 earned run average. So the Gamecocks certainly have the better arm on the mound there. UNC Wilmington is at Coastal Carolina as well. That is your Tuesday night college baseball spread here in the Palmetto State. Still waiting on Mike Morgan, I believe. There he is. He joins us from Atlanta, Georgia. We have Mike Yuva as well at 1:05 this afternoon up in Columbia. Gene Sapakoff down here in the Low Country with the Post and Courier. So our favorite leadoff hitter goes first on this Tuesday afternoon. Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
So we have an interesting conversation. We're going to plug you right into it here. You don't have any time to think. You just have to no thinking caps. So take
good, because I don't want to think when I'm on this show. Well, don't make me use my brain.
You have to spit out the first thing that comes to your mind after you shut the door. Okay?
Try to get rid of that glare. Sorry.
So we're discussing the fact that we know playoff expansion is coming. Okay? Whether it's in form of 6, 8, 10, 12, 16 teams, who knows? But it's coming. And I think we'll see it in the next few years, right? So one of the things that's happened since the 14 playoff came into play is that bowl season has been devalued to many. A lot of folks just don't care about it. Some players do, some players don't. Some coaches do. Some coaches say they do and don't, and things like that. But it's not like it used to be, Mike. You know, back in the day, the Outback Bowl in 2000, Ryan Brewer, yeah. Like, it's not like that anymore. So how do we everything good?
That somehow the automatic lock on my door caused a feedback explosion. I have no idea what that was, but something out of the 22nd century. I have a door that when you close it, it locks within 30 seconds.
Dude.
Because dumb people like me sometimes forget to lock every door, and that's not really a smart thing to do. I didn't realize that was going to set our segment on fire there, but please continue.
If anybody tries to break into the Morgan household, I got bad news for you.
You don't want to mess around with this household.
But folks in Charleston will know about it. All right, so why don't we play the bowls to start the year, Mike? And I don't have the structure. This is something I literally thought of this morning. I said, Darren, let's talk about this. Let's just talk about it. Let's act like we're in one of those meetings with all the playoff people and just spit stuff out of our mouths and let everybody talk about it. So What do you think about that? Hey, man, you know what? The 2025 Outback Bowl, we've selected Penn State and Florida, and we're going to play that game in, I don't know, Pittsburgh. What do you think about that?
I think it's a non-starter because the coaches will never go for it, and therefore the ADs will never go for it, and therefore it dies on the vine.
But why? I'm asking. I'm asking. I don't know. I'm asking because there are neutral site games now. Why would they not?
Because well, first off, most coaches want a cupcake in week 1, right?
True.
They don't want to. They don't want to have to sweat about I'm assuming you're talking neutral site and the hype and hoopla that would go along with a week 1 bowl game. I just don't think they're creatures of habit. They don't want to deal with all that nonsense. That just give me that team from the MAC. And let's line them up, and hopefully I get out of there with a 3-touchdown win and get on to week 2.
Darren came up with an interesting point, though, earlier, which is rare, so you have to listen to it when they're good. But Darren said, look, who cares if you want to name it the Outback Bowl or the Chick-fil-A Bowl or whatever, play it at somebody's home ballpark. What does that matter? As long as it's branded with the logo, as long as you got all the stuff in place, what does that matter? Why not play the Outback Bowl in Columbia for the Gamecocks in Indiana in 2025?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just can't get past the premise that we're ever going to play bowl games in week 1. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea. So that's what I always say. There's a lot of really good ideas that I would love to see implemented tomorrow. But then the other side of me says, just because you feel that way and you think it's a great idea doesn't mean it's going to ever happen. People are going to go for it.
Right.
And so I train myself to think like coaches, ADs, television networks, and all the above. And that side of my brain says, like a bolt of lightning, not going to happen. So that would be, I'm not trying to knock this down.
No.
And I don't say it's a bad idea. I don't think that's even on the list of 10 possibilities and scenarios that we have coming up. I don't think that's even on the docket.
Well, that's why we bring smart people like you onto the show. Because
I don't know about that.
But let me ask you this: would there be, again? I'm picking through this to have the conversation to see what if you had to qualify for this? Like, okay, because what I'm trying to get to here, Mike, is to preserve the bowl system, because I do think it's a good system. I think it's a rewarding system that works when it works. But we all know this is going towards a playoff system, and it might be 8 in 3 years, but we might look up in 10 years and it's 16. Mike, I don't know when they're going to stop expanding this. They might say they're going to be done at 8, but we don't know that. And those two are not going to be able to coexist. We all know that. So in the same time of year. So how can they coexist in different times of year? So what if Florida goes 9-3 this year and Michigan goes 9-3, and because of that, they're selected to the 2022 Outback Bowl kickoff that's going to be played in Nashville? Is that not something that we could entertain in some way, shape, or form?
My first question is, did they move the Outback Bowl to Nashville?
Well, they might.
Have you alerted the people in headquarters that the Outback Bowl is moving from Tampa to Nashville?
Is there a bowl game in Nashville? Yeah, the Music City Bowl.
Music City Bowl. Now, if the Music City Bowl moves to Tampa, then we really have a story, because that just doesn't seem to fit.
But you see what I'm like? You can plan for that. Okay. I mean, the Outback Bowl, they're going to play it. Yeah, okay, they're going to play it in Tampa.
I'm with you.
People have 9 months to plan for it.
Yeah. First off, let me go back to your original point, which I think is more of a item on the table of discussion, and that is, what is going to be the number that we do expand to? And as you properly said, we will expand. I think it's going to be 8. It took us a glacial pace to get to 4, and every lame excuse why we couldn't have a 4-team playoff. You really think this is the same group of people that are going to go from 4 to 16? I don't think we'll see 16 in our lifetime. I think there will be entirely too much resistance for that. If anything, if you were to put a gun to my head, and I hope you won't, I would say they would be so conservative and say we can't go more than 6 rather than 16. Now, I think it's going to be 8, and I thought the sweet number is 8. Since I was 19 years old and doing college radio, I've been crying for an 18 playoff, literally crying. It brings me to tears. But I don't think 16 is the number. I don't think it was the number then. I don't think it'll be the number now. And more importantly than what I don't think the people that are making these decisions have an appetite for 16. I think 8 is their bar. And with 8, you get your 5 conference champion automatic bids, and I promise you that'll be a stipulation. To me, there's only one debate about what this thing is going to look like in 5 years. And sadly, I don't think they're going to change it sooner than that. That's why I thought this story was a big nothing burger. Like, I already know it's going to expand. Now, if you tell me we actually have the potential to do it in the next couple of years, now you've really got something. Now I want you on my talk show to discuss it. But if you're just going to tell me, well, when the current deal's up, we could go to 8. We're talking about it. That's not a major story to me. I already know that's going to happen. The only question that I don't know the answer to, and I think this is going to be a heated debate with the people in charge, the 5 families, right? We always make that analogy,
Right.
And the other people out there that have a say in the room, just not as strong as say as the 5 families, is going to be, do we take the top Group 5 team and give them an automatic berth? Or do we say, nope, sorry, we're going to take the top 5 and then the top 3 wild cards. And if you, Boise State, if you, UCF, are not one of those top 8, tough, you know what, go enjoy your other bowl game. You go enjoy your Peach Bowl or whatever else you're in, or do what a lot of people like yours truly have suggested and have a Group 5 playoff. But we're not giving you an automatic seat at the table at the expense of, say, a 1-loss SEC team or 2-loss SEC team, a 2-loss Big 12 team, a 2-loss Big 10 team that most people believe is better than your 11-1 season in the American, better than your 11-1 season in the Mountain West, 12-0 season in the Mountain West. We're going to go ahead and take the best teams. That's going to be best for business. This is not, we're not giving out orange slices at the end of the game. This is not Little League. We're not giving out participation trophies. This is big time football. And that's the way we look at that. Those two schools of thought are going to go head to head on one of those valuable slots. And what I believe will be an 18 playoff, possibly 6, not 16.
Yeah, I mean, the question with that, right, is, are we talking about whether the Group of 5 is deserving or not? And but it comes down to teams. I mean, the whole goal, I thought, right, is to get the best 8 teams in there. So if you have a Group of 5 team that is one of the best 8 teams, then they need to be in there. But if we're going to mandate a Group of 5 team and one of those Group of 5 teams is not one of the best 8, then they don't need to be in there.
And more often than not, they're not.
Right.
More
exactly.
often than not, they're not.
Central Florida a few years ago.
That's the one that everybody points to, but that's the aberration. That's the exception to the rule.
That's it. Yeah, I'm trying to think of it any other time, right?
Well, if we went back to like circa 2011, when Boise State really had it rolling under Coach Peterson, he might have snuck in there as a top 8. He might have had a year where they did it. But again, it's extremely, extremely rare.
We had a conversation sort of like this yesterday, and my point was, however we decide this, whatever rankings we use, there always has to be some type of a committee like the one that's in place now to then settle these arguments, because you can't just, I've said this from day one talking about expansion, you can't just give a Group of 5 team a spot in the playoffs. It just doesn't make sense, because you have to earn your way in by being one of the best. So that's where the committee comes in, regardless of 4, 6, 8. If it gets bigger, there's always going to have to be that human element in there to make that final call.
Right. And I don't have a problem with that. Look, last year was such an uneven year because you had Ohio State playing half the games of other teams. That was a legitimate source of controversy. But other than that, and you don't need 13 people in a room to decide. The three of us can do this in 5 minutes more times than not. The only semblance of controversy we ever have is the number 4 versus number 5. And even that usually is not that difficult to determine. So I have no problem with committees and the human beings deciding the 2 or 3 wild cards that we're looking at in a given playoff. I just don't think it's that hard, quite honestly. This was, for years and years, I heard excuses why we couldn't do a playoff. Well, then if you do a 14 playoff, number 5's always going to be mad. If you do an 18 playoff, number 9's going to be always be mad. Yeah, so what? I mean, in the era, in a time where there's so much faux outrage, I think we can handle it. I think we can handle some people being upset that they were number 9 instead of number 8 in an 18 playoff. We'll survive that. We'll weather the storm and continue to move on from that. But no, this is not that complicated. You play the first round on campus sites.
Yes, I agree.
It's just not that hard. Now, if you go to 16, I see a lot of issues. And I just don't think the people in charge have an appetite for 16. Doesn't matter what Mike, JB, Darren think about it. We don't have a voice in this discussion when it comes down to the decision. And the people that are making it, I don't know many that are going to want 16.
I think you're wrong. I'm going to go march down the street and throw rocks through somebody's window. Somebody's going to listen to me.
You're going to loot a Target is what you're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go steal all the
Seems like a reasonable response to that.
That's right. I'm gonna go knock in the doors of a shoe store and take every pair of Jordans out of there and fight for my 16. I would say this, and Mike, you're probably not gonna like it. I know that Darren has not liked this in the past, but I am a fan of growing the sport of football as much as we can, because I'm backing up my comment with something that you have said multiple times, and you're spot on about it. Darren echoed your comments once again yesterday, which every year we come into the season with literally the same 8 teams, and 8's pushing it. I mean, 4 or 5, really. I mean, and it's boring. We're tired of it. Everybody's tired of it. And so I think the only way to grow this sport and to be able to allow some more teams out there to knock on the door of what matters at the end of the season is to get more teams into a playoff. So I say all that to say this, and again, you're not going to like it, but let me finish. If we're going to mandate that there's a group of 5 team in an 18 playoff, I would be much more for going to 16, put all the conference winners in there, and then give me 6 at-large teams with it. And yes, I get it. In the first round, you're going to have Alabama beat the brakes off of Miami of Ohio, and it's going to be 150-0. And I get that, and I understand that. But I'd rather just reward the conference winners and then give me some extra at-large guys. You're going to basically have 11 Power 5 teams in there, and let's try to grow this thing. Let's try to grow the Power 5 together cohesively and move forward. Then mandating one group of 5 and 8, I don't think that's the way to do it.
Couple things. By the way, one of your astute listeners, Craig, said 16-team playoff, too many games, and I kind of agree with that. I mean, now you're talking 17 games. I don't think that's going to happen. And B, to your other point, which I think is going to be more germane to the discussion, because again, I just don't see 16 happening. But
I agree.
But you're absolutely right that okay, it's the same 5-6 teams. Well, if we had the BCS, guess what? We'd have a lot of Alabama-Clemson games. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'd have Alabama-Ohio State one year, and we'd have LSU in the one-off, but we'd have the same thing. If we went to the Bowl Coalition, same teams. Bowl Alliance, same teams. 4-team playoff, same teams. 16 playoff, same teams. 18 playoff, same teams. 16-team playoff. Once we get to the nitty-gritty, same teams. So the fact that we have the same teams that are so much better than everybody else is not a byproduct of the postseason system we have. That is just a byproduct of those programs have been built up to the point where they're just much better than their competitors. Has nothing to do with the playoff. Now, I will say this. When we get to 8 and when we have automatic bids for the other, for all 5 power conferences, it does help to have, even if they do get blown out in round 1, it does help to have a Southern Cal as the Pac-12 champion. It does help to have an Oklahoma as the Big 12 champion involved in this thing, because it now they are excited about the end of the regular season and their conference championship game just to get in the playoff. Because look, 8 is still pretty exclusive company, right? We have 130 teams playing Division I. If you're one of the 8 that are in the playoff and you're on that big stage, that's still a pretty damn big deal. I liken it to like going to a Final Four in basketball.
Mhm.
You might not have won the whole national championship, but that banner, for example, in Columbia, that's going to be up there for 100 years and then some, and it should be, because that is a magical, magical season.
Right.
Same thing to making an 18 playoff. That's a huge accomplishment. But nothing is going to change the fact, as long as Nick Saban's in Alabama, Dabo Swinney is at Clemson, as long as Ohio State continues to do what they do and Oklahoma continues to do what they do, we're not getting away from that anytime soon. But I don't like blaming that as a byproduct of the postseason. That's just where those programs are.
Mic'd up with Mike Morgan, powered by Wando Power Equipment. Mike, we only have 6 or 7 minutes left here, so I do want to slide this a little bit to into
Is that
baseball.
Uva guy cutting into my time? That damn Mike Uva.
No. He's going to be late because he's got like a stack of those sandwiches he's got to eat and then
That's
go
right.
to the gym to work them off.
Boy, I hope Bojangles is paying him a lot of money. I tell you what, he has said Bojangles stock has probably gone up 7-8 points thanks to Mike Uva.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. I don't know the financials of that deal, but I know one thing. I wouldn't say another damn word about Bojangles unless I was getting some type of check in the mail every month at this point.
There's nothing worse than a media personality pimping a business in the middle of a segment. Did I mention Stuart Wingo, a great guy to get terrific mortgage rates? 803-319-1777, 803-319-1777, the best mortgage rates out there. Did I mention I'm ready for some Wando Power Equipment because my lawn is looking pretty rough. So I know where I'm getting my power equipment from, thanks to the terrific folks over there at Wando Power Equipment. There's nothing worse than just guys constantly plugging stuff in the middle of a segment.
Let me give you my Chris Burke. Yeah, no, I agree. Does he say that for every home run, by the way? Can you pass along our message that we like
Berkey? I never thought about that. Is that his?
Every time somebody tags one, he's
Okay.
It's pretty funny.
I haven't worked with Berkey this year. I work with Berkey I work with all these guys, but I haven't had a game with Berkey this year. I've been working a lot with Todd Walker, who I really enjoy.
He's really good.
He is. We'll have. Originally, I was supposed to do the Ole Miss game this weekend. A conflict came up, but I'll have the Mississippi State game with Todd Walker, and that, to me, that's going to be as big a series as they're going to have all year. That'll be at home against a team that's going to be top 5 in every poll and RPI. So can't wait for that. Anyway, I digress.
Thank you.
What were you saying? Sorry.
On that note, we'll let you run. So right now, Mike, I'm going to preface this with Carolina because they've got to go to Ole Miss this weekend. Then they have Mississippi State. Then they go to Lexington, Kentucky. Then they have Tennessee. Nice end of the year for them.
Mm-hmm.
But, regional hosts will be selected in about 2 weeks, May 10th. So I want to get your opinion on this. 6 for the SEC? Is that fair? Could they get 7? Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi State seemingly locks to host a regional. Mm-hmm. At this point in time, I would venture a guess that South Carolina is probably a lock. but you've got Ole Miss and you've got Florida, kind of right there, right? So 6. I mean, what do you think here?
I think you're on the right track. I think you named all the suspects that are in good shape. Now, of course, we've got 12 games left to be played, conference games. And how teams finish is going to be very important. But as you pointed out, the key thing this year, you don't have that long a time to impress the committee because the determination is going to be made earlier.
Right.
And that's something we're not used to. We're used to that team making that run over the final 9 games to all of a sudden get a host. Well, you can't have that this year if they're making that determination 3 weeks earlier. So, again, I go back to, and I'm looking at my calendar here, the Mississippi State series, the final game is May 9th. I think that's the one I'm working. So that's your last chance to make an impression on the committee, to make a statement, right, before they make that determination the next day.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm just referencing South Carolina specifically here. I mean, I think this Ole Miss series, Mike, is enormous because if you ask me today, all right, give me the regional hosts out of the SEC. Well, we know Vanderbilt, we know Tennessee, we know Arkansas, we know Mississippi State. Those 4 non-negotiables. I would say at this point in time, the 5th one is Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And then who's 6th? Is it Ole Miss? Is it Florida? Florida's played their way right back into this. We knew they would, and they have. So they're right there. But if Carolina goes and loses that series to Ole Miss, now you got another toss-up. But they've got Ole Miss, Mississippi State. They got North Florida. They got the Citadel. So they got 8 games before that May 10th date. You win your non-cons. You go 3-3 in the league. That puts you at 30-15. I think that's probably enough. And then
you're not even looking at the possibility of getting a national seed. That's not off the table.
No, I think they would be a top 16 seed today.
No, I mean top 8.
Oh, yeah, they're not top 8 today.
No, not today. But I'm saying if you go on the road and you take 2 of 3 at Ole Miss, if you take 2 of 3 at home against Mississippi State.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I think a lot of people. I don't know. I'm sure you mentioned it. Their RPI went up after losing 2 of 3 to Arkansas, the number 1 team in the country. I think they're at 10 now, right?
Right. Yes.
So they're knocking on the door for a national top 8 seed. Now, maybe I'm sounding a little greedy because you're right. It's weird. You could go one direction and you could have a top 8 national seed. You could go another direction and fighting for your life to host just a regional. That's how paper thin the margins are with a lot of these teams.
I totally agree. This is you've been doing this for a long time, so you see it every year, and you see it from the wide lens. Mm-hmm. Generally, the rest of us are looking at it specifically through one set of glasses here. But I don't know that I can remember a year where there was, like, in one league, all of this, and every weekend you're literally interchanging names. Well, put Tennessee here, put Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Florida. I mean, they're just playing games with each other, going back and forth. It's amazing.
I was on with the new Untitled Chapters yesterday, and mainly talking spring football, but they threw in a baseball question about the SEC, like, how many bids are they going to get? How many bids? This league is so good. And my answer was, you know what? They're not going to set the record for the number of bids. The record is 10. The SEC did it twice. The ACC did it once. I don't think they're going to get 10. But what I do think, they'll probably get like 9. But I do think the top 5 that are going to come out of the SEC this year, I've never seen it stronger. Never.
No,
that's how good this year. And I don't give in to hyperbole and, it's always the best. And this is always, the SEC is always the best. And no, I'm just telling you, as someone who's been doing games in this league for the better part of 20 years, I've never seen the top 5 this strong. That's what separates it from the rest of the country.
I'll say this, and we'll leave it here as well. I mean, I know Ole Miss has dropped in the rankings to 19. I'm surprised Georgia. I go by the D1 rankings every week. Those are, I think, the closest.
That's what we use, yeah.
I like D1. I'm surprised Georgia hasn't cracked the 25. I thought they'd be in the top 25 this week, but they're not in there. But
they got off to a sluggish start. The thing that Georgia always has, that if they're a bubble team, their out-of-conference RPI, strength of schedule, is always ridiculous, right? Because they always play Georgia Tech, who's really good this year. They always play Clemson, who's not really good this year, but still it's a quality opponent. They find those out-of-conference games every year that are daunting. So I have to look at their numbers. Where are they RPI? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, 26.
26. Okay, so they're knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Typically, and you're in the top 30, you're very much in the discussion. I don't know who they have this weekend off the top of my head.
Well, they have Georgia Tech tonight, and then they've got Auburn, which is a very winnable series. Certainly.
Oh yeah. No, but that's not going to do anything for your. So Georgia Tech will do something because that's a top 25 type team. If you can beat them, that's one of those Tuesday night games that actually can help you. Yeah. And then Auburn, you don't want to lose that series. And Auburn is still very capable. If you want to talk about a team that's like one of the best teams with one of the worst records that I've seen in a long time, it's Auburn. They've just had so many injuries, but by no means is that a gimme. That's not a layup for Georgia. I guarantee you Georgia knows that. But they need, if they could just get a series win over one of those great teams left on their schedule from the SEC, and I'm sure they've got a couple left. But taking 2 out of 3 against Missouri is not going to do it, which is what they just did.
Yeah, you might want to win that Auburn series because after that, it's at Arkansas, at Florida, and Ole Miss.
Okay, so there you go. That's where you're going to determine whether or not Georgia gets in. In those 9 games, do you go 5-4 or do you go 2-7?
Right.
And that's going to dictate whether or not you wind up in the postseason.
Yeah, they lost their first 3 series in the league. They've won their last 3, and we'll see where it goes from there. But we know from here we got to go to break. Mike, good stuff as always. Nice to glad no intruders today with that alarm system back there.
Yeah, everything is safe, and I didn't cut out like I did a couple weeks ago. This was technically sound. You get a great view of my kitchen behind me as opposed to the office. So we're just giving you a virtual tour around the Morgan household.
What are the changing lights that are on the ceiling? Is that the lock that automatically locked, or is there some like?
You know what that is? That's just the glare going in and out. Next time, if I do it from here, I will close the blinds.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's like a fish show. It's cool.
Yeah, it's like a disco ball, right? Like, let's go ahead and do a little Travolta back there, circa 1979 or something.
I'm with you. Yeah, a disco ball will be great next week. Disco balls. And,
I'll see what I can do. I'll have my stage manager set that up.
Next Tuesday will be Wig Day on the EJB and Goldwater show.
There you go.
Have a great week. What game are you calling this week?
So I mentioned I had Ole Miss, South Carolina. I had to back out of that one. What do I have? I have Alabama, Missouri, which Alabama could play their way into the tournament. Missouri is Missouri.
No, they're not.
Bama could play their way in. They took a gut punch to Kentucky last week, losing 2 of 3. But yeah, they got swept in a doubleheader, and Kentucky's another bubble team. Like I think it's pretty simple. We know who's getting in, and then there's, like you mentioned, Georgia, there's Kentucky, there's Bama, and I don't think there's anybody else I'm missing that's truly that has a chance to play their way in.
No, I guess LSU could theoretically do it, but they got to go. They got to roll.
Gosh, again, they've got the talent to do it. And they almost swept Ole Miss. They should have. They blew, what was that, a 7-run lead on Sunday?
Yeah.
Did you see that? A grand slam and then a walk-off in extra innings. So if you pull that off and you sweep Ole Miss on the road, everybody's talking about LSU. And, again, they have a good RPI. But that conference record – remember when Ray Tanner was on the committee and Kentucky thought they were going to get in? Because they were, like everybody else, when you're begging for your postseason life, you focus on the numbers that help you and you ignore the ones that don't. And what got them out is their conference record just wasn't good enough.
Right.
And that still trumps RPI and everything. And when your conference record in the SEC over 30 games, that should be and is the top determinant as to what your postseason future looks like.
Well, if it could set up any better for LSU moving forward, I don't know how, because They do finish with A&M, Bama, and Auburn, all very winnable series. But this weekend, they host Arkansas. So if you can win at home a series against Arkansas, you got 9 games left.
Yeah,
winnable
that's a great
games.
point. That's a great point. And it just reminds me when you look at those final Bama, Auburn, and A&M, those are the 3 worst teams in the West. And Carolina didn't draw any of them.
No, of course not.
That's I mean, it's historic how that happened. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy or anything. It's not. It's just a rotation. But it is crazy to see that they couldn't have drawn a worse schedule than they did this year. And they're still doing pretty damn good. So no need to bellyache over it. They're doing fine.
Oh, don't tell people that. They need to complain. Come on. This team,
all right, go ahead, bellyache.
Kingston teaches them just how to hit home runs. He can't teach them anything else. You know that by now.
Right.
25-12, all luck. Fluke.
It's complete fluke. Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great week.
See you guys.
Mike with Mike Morgan, powered by Wando Power Equipment. We're actually gonna fly through the national anthem today, so we'll play 2 of them tomorrow. As a matter of fact, why not? Right here on the JB and Goldwater show. Mike Yuva is going to join us next here in just a moment, so hang tight while we get him on the line and skip through our national anthem today. We do have Gene Sapakoff ahead at 1:30 this afternoon with the Post and Courier. Also want to remind you once again, it's Babe Ruth Day. So celebrate the Babe in any way, shape. Maybe have a hot dog and a beer, right? That was Babe Ruth's drink and food of choice before he would play, back when he did play, whereas players now are just, sucking down these weird energy drinks and wheat and, poppy seeds and crap like that. It's changed certainly a little bit. Wando Power Equipment, wandopower.com. You can find them at 843-849-8814. Financing is available for anything that you need, like the zero-turn Hustler Raptor series available at Wando Power Equipment on Daniel Island. They've been in business for over 30 years. They're owned by our friends, the Price family. So make sure that you check them out there. Folks come from everywhere: Orangeburg, Georgetown, Beaufort, Charleston, you name it. Wando Power Equipment. Find them at wandopower.com on Daniel Island, of course. Wando Power powers our Power Hour and Mic'd Up with Mike Morgan every Tuesday afternoon. From one mic to another, speaking of food, maybe this guy's pregame meal now is a Bojangles Yuva biscuit because he created it. Mike Yuva joins us from Columbia, South Carolina. What's up, man?
How you doing, guys?
Well, it's just a tale of 2 mics around here. We've got Mike Morgan, we have Mike Yuva, and we have fun, right?
He's the much better Mike. And what I do like about Mike, even though I really haven't had a chance to meet him, is he's like, hey, anytime you're in Atlanta, you can come on by and we'll have some bourbon. So, I mean, he's talking my language, and it seems like he's a very good guy from everyone that has spoke about him. So hopefully I have the chance to be able to do that, because I will definitely take him up on that offer.
You should. I've been in this business for over 6 years now, and I don't have a better friend in it than Mike Morgan. He has been. He doesn't even know how much he's actually helped me. He is everything you see and hear on TV. That's Mike Morgan. He is a true dude behind the scenes. But so are you, and that's why we have you as a part of our little JB and Goldwater family around here. Mike, couple of things to get to with you today. I want to have some fun with you and want to get an update as well. And we'll talk some of the spring game stuff. But tomorrow, name, image, and likeness will make its way onto the House floor in Columbia. And that is expected to pass. And then it'll head to the governor's desk. And Governor Henry McMaster is expected to sign that into law. And here before long, the state of South Carolina will have their name, image, and likeness bill become law. And more than likely ahead of the NCAA putting anything into their books up in Indianapolis. As you, I don't know how much you have been reporting on this, been investigating into this, been looking at this, but are there any details over the last few months that maybe have stuck out in this name, image, and likeness bill that you've noticed worth discussing? Every state has something a little bit different here and there. Alabama, Mississippi, they've all got a couple little quirky things in there. You got to read through it to figure it out. Have you read through any of this in South Carolina?
Skim through it, and I think the reason why I'm kind of skeptical right now in terms of reading it and taking it kind of as, like, the law, right? Kind of like the letter of the law, is just because, like you said, There's so many differences when you go by state. And I think, unfortunately, we are heading in the right direction. But I think, unfortunately, because of that, it's going to create some unfair advantages in different states. And I think, I look at a state like Massachusetts, and, I always pick on them for colleges. I just can't see it go down the same exact way as it would go down in a state like Alabama or Florida or South Carolina. And, not that Massachusetts schools, especially for football, are probably going to be competing for national titles anytime soon. But, I look at football in particular, but you can look at any sport. I just think it's one of those things that we're going to make progress right now. And as soon as you see more and more states start to get into it, there's going to be an issue. There will be an issue at some point. There is going to be an unfair competitive advantage when you talk about recruiting, because this will be an extra tool, an extra vehicle that coaches will use when they are recruiting. Why wouldn't you? I mean, we talk about negative recruiting. We talk about dirty recruiting all the time in sports. Why don't you think this would be anything different? If a state has a little bit more leeway, you don't think they're going to use that to their advantage? And especially knowing that there's probably a lot of kids that come in, whether it's football, basketball, you can go down the list, that might want that extra money right now. Or maybe they have a parent or a brother or sister or someone just in their ear saying, why wouldn't you make a couple extra bucks if you have the opportunity to do it? I think we're heading in that right direction, but I do think at some point you're going to have to find a way to be able to make this rule basically just similar in every state. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm very skeptical to see how this kind of plays out, because I just don't know if there is, number one, a way to be able to do that, because when you have politics mixed in, usually it's not a good mix. Sports and politics usually don't mix well together. Because at the end of the day, politics will always try to step on the feet of sport. And we've seen that over the years.
Watch Fox's Mike Yuva 112 on this Tuesday afternoon. Mike, and you're right. I mean, we'll have to kind of wait and see exactly what it's going to look like. I think it's a fair assessment to say, let's say the law was in place right now. All right, so Trevor Lawrence is expected to be on Thursday the first Clemson player to ever be drafted number 1 overall in the NFL draft. Matter of fact, he'll be the only Clemson player ever to be drafted in the top 3 of the NFL draft. The highest draft selection they've ever had is 4, and that's happened 4 times, most recently with Clelin Ferrell in 2019. But both of you, I'm asking, I'm pretty sure I saw this. Did I see that Trevor Lawrence could be worth something like $100 million or something right now if he had name, image, and likeness rights already in the state of South Carolina? Did I dream that, or did I see that somewhere?
I didn't see it. I don't know about you. Yeah.
I knew it was high. I don't know if that's the exact number, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, go back to the fact that this guy comes out his freshman year and wins a national title. I mean, just think about the ceiling from there, just from that alone. And then even though he didn't have a chance, he didn't win a Heisman. He had a chance to do it. The fact that you're always going to be in the mix right after you win it, you win a national title your freshman year, I can't even imagine the amount of money that he would have been pulling in.
Oh, I can't either. I mean, he's got a Gatorade endorsement now, but is there if you have to, when I ask this question, you got to think a little bit off of the front page. Think a little bit off the front page now. Is there another athlete in this state that maybe would approach Trevor Lawrence, or maybe even carry richer endorsement deals than Trevor Lawrence? And when I say think off the front page, because here's what I mean by that. Most people are like, well, the quarterback in South Carolina, Luke Doty. No. Is there like a volleyball player? Is there a golfer? I mean, I think social media influence is a big part of this, right? Is there some women's volleyball player that we don't know about at Newberry, who's maybe beautiful and going to be on the front page of every magazine in America? Yeah. I don't know. I'm asking.
I think right now I can't really find someone that. I mean, obviously, no one's going to be able to touch Trevor Lawrence. But if you're trying to find who that number 2 is, and you look at a number 2 from just the Gamecock perspective, I mean, shoot, if he was still here, I think Ryan Helinski would certainly have a case to be made about being, the highest from a Gamecock standpoint because of everything that he was able to achieve off the field. And if he was able to get back out there and be the starting quarterback, obviously that thing would have took off even more. In terms of current athletes right now, I mean, shoot, I think the one that kind of just stands out to me right now is Aaliyah Boston, just because of what she's been able to accomplish. And she's on the path right now. She's doing things that were very similar to what Asia Wilson was able to do. And I can't even imagine if Asia was able to get some money. Now, would it be the type of football money that Trevor Lawrence would have made? No, certainly not. But at the same time, too, women's basketball has been able to grow. And I think it's grown tremendously these last couple of years in particular. And I think people like Asia Wilson has certainly put that sport on the map, and it's growing. And obviously being able to have, TV deals growing through ESPN, I think is helping women's basketball, whether it's the collegiate level or professional level, with the WNBA. But, from a male standpoint, I mean, shoot, if Wes Clark was able to continue to get the bats going, I mean, think about just the beginning of the year. Think of all the endorsements he would have been able to get at the beginning of the season after smacking like 8 home runs through the first 10, 11, 12 games. I don't know. I don't know right now. I mean, it's just you need to be able to find someone that can be consistently good, and to try to find someone that you can compare to Trevor Lawrence right now in this state from a Gamecock standpoint. I don't know if it even exists. I don't even know how distant that would be from Trevor, and then the next guy underneath the list from Gamecock. I don't know who would be right now. I mean, that's a great question, but I just think that's how big the gap is between Trevor and any Gamecock athlete right now when you're talking about getting paid, in terms of being able to use your likeness and an image.
Darren, I think you found what I was talking about here.
I sure did, yeah, and I threw it up on Twitter. So it's an article from, I guess, the Clemson Sports Illustrated site, and it says, based on their research, this is from at Rubbing the Rock, Trevor Lawrence is about to have more money than what could ever dream of.
That freaking site. I don't even want to read it anymore. But all right,
I know that's that. I'm just putting it out there so we know where this thing came from. One estimates that $150 million already has been lost due to bad timing in the quote business of football.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful with the fan-sided Sports Illustrated stuff. But
that's why I told you where I'm reading it from.
So I referenced that. I just, we'll see. But I mean, I'll have to read through this a little bit more to see. But at the end of the day, we know that he's lost money. So Mike, you said something that kind of has my gears grinding a little bit here. I want to get a little bit more into this. Let's play hypothetical, because we're going to play hypothetical with this player. But the reality of it is, this is probably going to happen at some point in time very soon in sports. Yep. So you mentioned Ryan Helinski, and he's at Northwestern now. And if he was still at South Carolina, maybe a guy, obviously, because of what his family has gone through and things of that nature, maybe a guy who'd be able to tap into a ton of name, image, and likeness money. But think about this for a second. What type of issues could that cause? And I know that, there's a bunch of people out there. Well, it doesn't matter. His name, he's owed that money. Okay, well, that's fine. But just hold on, hear me out. What could that cause? We have Mike, we have Carolina fans who watched about 7 throws in the spring game on Saturday who are claiming that all of a sudden Jason Brown should be the starting quarterback and Luke Doty can't throw the ball downfield. Yep. Forget about the fact that they've watched this kid play every freaking day in practice for the last 4 damn months. Forget about all that crap. But we saw 7 throws.
Shout out coaches.
So what type of problem could that cause? Like Ryan Helinski's sitting on the bench. He's not playing at South Carolina. Luke Doty is, but Ryan Helinski's sitting over there. He's worth $5 million. He's making a bunch of money. Fans want to see him. Sponsors want to see him. What is it? What type of problem could that cause?
The problems that it would cause is that the fan base would obviously want to see Ryan out there. But here's the difference. And I'm not saying that you said this. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. The difference between this and how it would be played out in college in comparison to how it's played out with professional sports, the school is not paying them a dime.
Yeah.
So, if the New England Patriots have a star player and they're paying them all this money, why would you have him ride the bench if you're paying him a top dollar? You don't want him to do that. You're wasting money. The school, it's not hurting them at all in terms of from a financial standpoint. They're not paying his salary. If you want to call it a salary or just compensation, they're not worried about that. But I mean, but that's I feel like it's already here anyway, right? You know, we want this guy to play, we want that guy to play. Just think back to last season. Holinski wasn't seeing a penny, and there were still people saying we want to see Holinski in there. Why isn't Ryan getting an opportunity? Because of the support that he had in this state, especially in Columbia. And that was with no money involved. So I don't know how much it would really change things. I don't think it would really make that much of a difference. Just because, like I said, at the end of the day, this isn't a professional sport. This is collegiate sports. In the school, the team, Beamer now, of course, being the head coach, he wouldn't have had to worry about that at all from a financial standpoint because they're not the ones paying for the likeness for Ryan Holinski or any athlete from that standpoint.
I think a lot of money, and we'll see this play out, I'm pretty sure, is going to be in the value of the social media presence. So in this case, Ryan Holinski could be on the bench, and he could be worth a whole hell of a lot more than Luke Doty, who's on the field. Right, Joe Burrow last year, to whenever he was drafted, they estimated that a single Instagram post, or I think his whole Instagram page, was about a $700,000 annual thing for Burrow. The female athletes, gymnasts in particular, it was publicized during the NCAA women's basketball tournament. How much money a lot of these women can make because of their social media following. So it's not necessarily about what the fans want, who's on the field. It's about how you market yourself.
Absolutely. And I think we're seeing that more and more. And some schools are trying to tap into that from a recruiting standpoint. I mean, I still think it is just the stupidest thing in the world. But, you know, UCF putting their freaking Twitter handles on the back of their jerseys. I think it is so dumb. I think it is lame. But at the same time, too, if they think it's going to make a difference with recruiting, why not? Mm-hmm. That's just the world we live in. Because any former athlete that says that they wouldn't have liked to be able to get a little piece of the pie, they're lying. Playing for the love of the game, playing for, you know, their teammates and this and that. Yeah, you're doing that. You want to win. I mean, shoot, I would have loved to have a national title. I would have loved to have a conference championship when I played in college. But to be able to get a little piece, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And now we are getting into an era where the possibility of getting a little piece isn't just money. It's about being able to get likes. It's about being able to get recognition. And a lot of these people, I mean, just think about reality TV, like The Bachelor, right? Now, I'm not saying that it's at the very beginning, people weren't thinking this way, but a lot of people want to get on these reality TV shows because they want to get spinoffs afterwards. They want to be able to do this or that. That's kind of how college sports have been. It gives you an opportunity to have a big platform. And I'm not saying that you haven't earned that opportunity, but I just feel like some collegiate athletes, they're more worried about how can this help my brand? What if I make a YouTube channel? I do this or that, you know, and who knows how loose some of those regulations are gonna get. Because of course, I mean, shoot, we talked about UCF, the UCF punter from a couple of years ago. He had to make up his mind. Am I going to make a YouTube page and be able to make money off it? Or am I going to go kick? And he decided to go stick with YouTube, and it looks like things are paying off for him right now. So I think we've just got to a point where brand and self-image and this and that, it just keeps growing. And I get it. It is scary to think of sometimes, though, and I can't even imagine being the coach. I mean, I've had conversations with some of my former teammates who are collegiate coaches and some of my coaches that I played for. It's difficult because you want guys that want to be there. You want guys that are going to be team first guys. But at the same time, too, this is just the era that we're in right now. Mm-hmm. And you have to realize that. So how do you find ways to be able to get guys to be like, hey, you want to come here? You want your Twitter handle on your back of your jersey? Okay, great. Whatever we got to do from a recruiting standpoint. But once you're in, once you're locked in, once you sign, once you're going to practice every day, how can I make sure that I get this player to buy into the system that we have here and let him know, hey, you do everything that we're telling you to do, you'll still be able to get your own. You will get your own. But I think it's a very difficult question. And I think with this image this likeness image law that's going to be passing in a lot of states, I think it is going to cause issues. And it's going to be causing more headaches for a lot of coaches when they recruit, because it's just going to be something else that's going to be on the table.
I agree. I'd love to see Lou Holtz coaching in this era. He'd tell you to go to hell if you tried to put your damn Twitter handle on the back of your jersey.
Him and Joe Paterno would just say, screw it. Joe Pa would only coach 20 years if this was going on right now. He'd be like, I'm done. No, thank you.
Agree.
I could. Yeah, there's a few of them out there. I mean, the Bear. I think Bobby Bowden would say the hell with it. Spurrier might have even said the hell with it after a while. I mean,
guys, our parents are the. I mean, even us, we're sitting here saying, "God, this thing's crazy."
I think it's dumb.
Two generations older than us. Yeah, they think it's crazy.
And I said, and Mike, and I know we have a couple of minutes left with you, Mike, but you're a good one to have this part of the conversation with as well. Like James tweeted to us and said, I just saw. He said, then everyone, you mentioned Wes Clark and all the home runs. And he said, well, then everyone would be blaming those endorsements for his recent struggles. That's definitely going to happen when guys have bad games. And he's right. And one of the things that we've seen over the last few years with the influence of social media ramping up, if you can look, here's, we all know how it works, right? Like if you are capable of creating a Twitter handle, you're smarter than everybody in the room, always, no matter what. Doesn't matter what Shane Beamer says. Doesn't matter what Dabo Sweeney says. You know more than they do, period, the end, because you have a Twitter handle. So, and people now say things. I love what Mike Tyson said. People can say things on Twitter without getting punched in the face. They deserve to get punched in the face or hit in the head with a sledgehammer, but they can say it and get away with it because we don't know who they are. And the more money that these kids are going to make, they're going to get more of this. It's coming, Mike, because, and you know that if Cam Smith, who got burnt last year a couple times, and he starts at corner this year for South Carolina, if Cam Smith all of a sudden picks up some endorsement deal and he's worth a couple $100,000 and it's public knowledge, we know about it, and he goes out there and some kid from Eastern Illinois takes him to the house on a fly route, and that's a touchdown, there's going to be 1,000 dip blanks that starts with an SH and ends with an IT, with their little phones. Are going to pop them up in the student section and everywhere else and tell everybody how much Cam Smith sucks and his parents should be ashamed of him and this, that, and the other. And this kid's going to read that. So I hope people are prepared for this. If anybody thinks I'm overreacting, boy, are you wrong, because the internet overreacts to everything. I'm telling you what's coming. You better be prepared to guard against it, because you want to be a big boy, you want to make a bunch of money, big girl, you better be prepared for the blowback. It's coming. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying it's coming. You might want to get off social media while you're making all that money.
And I'll say this, in the newest podcast for the Beyond the Zone podcast that we do, just dropped actually today. We had Terry Orth and Jacob August on, and, not to get too sidetracked with it, but I mean, we had a conversation off air. I've been dealing with a lot of personal stuff. At some point I will, open up and kind of share some of those things, but it goes into the influence when you get addicted to hearing certain things that are being said about you. And it gets to the point where, as an athlete, you know what's going on. They understand what's being said about them. Anyone that says, oh, they just unplug, and they don't. If they delete their Twitter account, that's the best thing Perry Worth said you could do. If I'm Luke Doty, I delete my Twitter account. I delete my Instagram. I do all this. Now, with that all being said, we're talking about likeness and images and being able to make money. That's difficult. And when you have all that stuff going on now, I can't even imagine the challenges some athletes are going to have to face. They're going to have to make up their mind. Do I want to be able to build this brand, or do I do my thing? And to me, and I don't know, maybe this is where it goes into, you have like a student. You find a student to basically run your social media account. I don't think that's too far-fetched to believe, because in that way you're able to focus on what you have to do in the field, but you're also smart enough to realize, like, hey, if I'm on social media and I post stuff and I'm doing pretty good in the field, there's possibilities for me to be able to make some money. So, I say all that because anyone that says, oh, the players, when players say, oh, I don't look at anything, that is BS. And every athlete that I've interviewed since they've graduated, J.C. Horn, Israel Mukwamu, to Darius Hutchinson, all these guys I've had on my shows the last couple of weeks, they all say it's BS. They know what's being said. And I think we all know that, but it's just refreshing to hear it after the fact. So you throw in some money, I mean, man, I don't know how you're able to avoid everything. I just don't think it's possible.
The question then in my head is, risk reward. Do I want to be Joe Burrow making $700,000 and then bringing what comes with it into my social media life and in my timeline, We just want to shut it down. The idea of having someone run a Twitter account, that's a good idea because it happens all the time with celebrities, with coaches, all the time.
Absolutely. And I think that's where it could go down to. And I mean, shoot, think about some of these positions that have kind of opened up, creative service departments. Just think of the job that Justin King's been able to do. Why not be able to hire some kids part of the creative service department or whatever the hell you want to call it, and you have them kind of manage some of these social media accounts if athletes want that. I mean, you could obviously just, J.C. Horn, so J.C. Horn was still here in this past. J.C. could go out, find someone on campus. You could ask a friend. Yeah, he could do that. But the school might want to be able to kind of control things a little bit because at that point, right, they have meetings at the beginning of the year, throughout the season in terms of be careful what you're posting on social media when you're a collegiate athlete. I don't know if there would be kind of one of those things. I'm not saying like Steve Fink, but I'm just using, USC for an example. I don't know if USC would kind of pass something or put a rule out. It might be something that the head coach would have to put out and say, you know what, guys, if you want to do something like that and you want someone else to control your social media account, it has to be through us. We have to have one of our guys do it. I don't know if that'd be the case, but I would not be shocked if once all this stuff is passed, that you see people pass the buck off in a sense to have other people run their social media account so that they can still stay focused while also knowing that they can make money by being able to be active on social media.
I agree. It's going to be a nasty world once you put a bunch of cash in the pockets of these players, and I'm not saying it's going to be a nasty world on their side of things. I don't actually know that it will change some. There's going to be some kids that feel like they've made it because they got some money and they're not going to do a whole lot, and they'll figure out the hard way that, well, you're not going to be around here very long. It's going to happen, but most of the damage will be done from know-it-alls who, again, are able to have a Twitter handle. I hate most of what I see. I can't stand it. I have to have it, but just like you do, Mike, just like you do, Darren, we got to know what's going on, but some of the crap that's out there. Just like this, let me read this one for you real quick before we run. Chris Sims, former quarterback at Texas. Smart guy. Really like him. Don't like this take, though. Actually, it's pretty bad. If you've watched J.C. Horn, if you've watched him play at any point in time in the last 3 years, you know this is just dead wrong. He says, quote, I like J.C. Horn. Has some special attributes, but he's a walking pass interference call in the NFL and lacks top-end speed. I know what his 40 was, but film doesn't match it. He needs to be in the right scheme. That doesn't put him on an island. Not my preferred type of corner. Oh, I don't know. I kind of like the corners that nobody wants to throw towards. Oh, Chris, have a drink, pal. You're wrong. Way wrong. He's going in the top 20 picks of the draft, just as an FYI.
Good. Keep letting the fuel. And I loved it. I know you may have mentioned this on your program before. You guys may have mentioned it. I love that quote J.C. Horn had at his media availability leading up to Pro Day when he said, you know what, experts are wrong all the time. He's like, let's check back 5 years from now and see how things play out. It doesn't matter where I get drafted. I can get drafted top 10, 15. I can get picked 30th. Let's see what happens once you get into the league because you still have to play after you get drafted. I love that. I love that quote. I know, it wasn't, I'm kind of paraphrasing right now, but I loved hearing that. It was just awesome. And anyone that knows JC, he is a very, 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 I can't use the word very enough, humble individual off the field. But when he's on the field, he's everything you want. He's a savage. He's a dog. He's cocky. He's confident. He does it all. I love it. And that's what you need, not just at the NFL level, but at any level when you're playing cornerback.
Hey, Stefan Gilmore made the comment not too long ago. I think it was off the record, but it was, damn, I wish I looked like that when I was a junior at South Carolina. This is from the best cornerback in the league, Stefan Gilmore. So, Chris Sims, he's a little off on that.
Didn't he have Trevor Lawrence as the third best quarterback in the draft?
You know what? I think you're right.
Yeah, something like that.
I was just thinking there was something else that he's been in the news for. I think that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't take his word for it, folks. But take Mike's. Go get yourself a Yuva. Well, I can't promote Bojangles anymore until they start paying you. But go get yourselves a Yuva. All right.
I will say this. Hey, I want to say this though. Something really cool. Bojangles reached out to me today.
Whoa.
Something really cool that we'll be doing soon. It's not something that it's going to be like, Mike's making money. No. This is something really cool. It's something that Bojangles is doing. I can't really. They said this is a secret, so we have to wait. But I am very excited. I think it just shows the type of people over at Bojangles and the difference that they want to make. So I'm very, very excited. And anyone that enjoys Bojangles, they're going to like this. They are really going to like it. And I know people in this area in particular are going to be very fond of the idea.
Very cool. Rock on, brother. The Beyond the Zone podcast is out as well. Jacob August and my good buddy, Mr. Perry Orth, are a part of that. Perry, of course, was on our show yesterday. I haven't had a chance to listen yet, but that will be my afternoon listening while I'm in the yard. So looking forward to that. Mike, have a wonderful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. Fun to talk to you today, as it is every week, and we'll do it again very soon. Okay, brother?
Always a pleasure. Appreciate you guys.
Later.
You're the man. There you go, Mike Cuba. Watch Fox. All right. We got to hit a timeout. Darren and I need a drink of water, and then Gene Sapakoff will join us next right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risk their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Low Country. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit StonoFerryGolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. StonoFerryGolf.com.
You were listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
1:38 Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back. Final segment of the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Back to the phone lines we go. That's where Gene Sapakoff joins us, part of the amazing staff at the Post and Courier, Mr. 7-time Sports Writer of the Year himself. Hey, Gene.
Surely you guys are broadcasting from outdoors on a plaza somewhere.
I agree. We should have looked at the weather this week, but Dave and Rob and those guys, they've really been screwing it up over the last month, so I don't know that we can trust them anymore.
And I blame them for that.
Yeah,
Me
the
too.
weather's of course their fault. But I mean, that's their job, right?
Yeah, it's Rob's job. I mean, if we could get criticized for South Carolina's starting quarterback not being able to throw the ball down the field, Rob can surely be criticized for not being able to get the weather right 10 days out. So, just saying. Gene, what do you think about all that? You see 7 passes in a spring game, and all of a sudden Luke Doty can't throw the football anymore.
Well, on the one hand, you really don't want to show Eastern Illinois too much. And on the other, let's face it, South Carolina does not have the best quarterback situation in the SEC, and it's going to be a developing situation as we go forward. And hopefully by the time they play some really serious football games, things will have improved, whether it's Luke Doty or Jason Brown or someone else.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it fair to say that maybe the guys who have been, I was just texting with one of them during the break, as a matter of fact, on staff at South Carolina, these guys who've been looking at these players, every day, I don't know, for a month and a half, all spring potentially, and they might have a clue if they're like, hey, this guy's definitely the starting quarterback. Yeah, he's probably our guy. It doesn't matter what happened in those 7 passes in the spring game. We've seen him every day. He's pretty good. Isn't it fair to say that they might know what they're talking about, or is that not fair?
I've always thought that. And in the history of my criticism of coaches and things, I've rarely said, you're playing the wrong guy or whatever. But in talking about South Carolina Gamecock quarterback situation, though, I think we shouldn't try to say that there are not problems or potential problems, because I'm not really sure in the grand scheme of design over the evolvement of the quarterback room of the last 3 or 4 years, it was meant for Luke Doty to be the quarterback as a sophomore at South Carolina. You are fighting with a hand tied behind your back when that is the situation.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Respect to Luke Doty, he's not ready to win in the SEC.
I think you make some points there, certainly, and he's going to have to figure out how to win in the SEC, because he's more than likely, as it stands today, going to be the guy. But of course, we all know that can change either before the season or once the season commences. But I think you make a great point. I mean, if you go back just a couple of years and you look at how they had set up that quarterback room, I think it was anticipated, obviously, that Jake Bentley's tenure would not end the way that it did, that Ryan Helinski would probably fill right in. And then maybe hopefully Luke Doty would fill right in, not this year, but down the line, maybe next year or so. And none of that is played. It didn't work out for Bentley. It didn't work out for Helinski. Joyner got moved to wide receiver. Doty's in there all of a sudden. I mean, none of it. 3 years ago, everybody had kind of written this script when Doty was about to sign with South Carolina, and now here we are, and it's all changed.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the most fascinating and weird scenarios there is. And I know things like this are going all over the place because of the extra year, not just in football, but that athletes in other sports have gotten. But Jake Bentley's still playing football. Ryan Helinski is on a roster, and Colin Hill could play if he wanted to. Gunnar Stockton, once the, heir apparent great quarterback is going somewhere else, all these guys that either had or used to have ties to South Carolina are somewhere else, except I guess Hill's not going to play anymore, but that's just weird.
Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier, but it's not unusual anymore, Gene. I mean, you look up at Clemson. I mean, they lost Hunter Johnson. They lost what's his name? That went to Duke. Started last year at Duke.
Chase Bryce.
Chase Bryce. I mean, yeah, they have a succession of elite level quarterbacks up there. Deshaun, Trevor, DJ Uyunglele appears to be the next great thing. But they're losing them. Everybody's losing them. It's where we are in college football now.
No, and right now, I mean, Clemson is in a situation where, when they line up, I guess Hunter Helms, a walk-on from Columbia, is the backup quarterback. And that's why I asked Dabo Swinney on the Zoom presser after their spring game, I think that there's still a chance Clemson goes into the transfer portal for a quarterback at some point, because, he hasn't said that he won't. And that is the weakest quarterback situation Clemson has had in their college football playoff era.
That is an interesting point, because to my knowledge, Gene, correct me where I'm wrong, or if I'm wrong, I haven't seen Clemson accept a transfer under Dabo Swinney. Have they?
He was adamantly against it for a while. They haven't had any yet. He has said now that he would be open to it, and even kind of bragged that, and if we decide to get into it, we'll get the best. And so I think he's kind of sending a message there, and it's only a matter of time before they do that. Again, let's look at the kind of the short history of the Clemson quarterback room in the playoff era. When they had when they had Taj Boyd, and that wasn't the playoff era, but they had Watson signed. When they had Watson, they had Kelly Bryant, and they slowly groomed him. And whatever you want to say about Kelly Bryant, I mean, he won the ACC championship, won the ACC championship game, got him to the playoffs. when they had Kelly Bryant, they had Trevor Lawrence. When they had Trevor Lawrence, they had Chase Bryce and DJ Uiagalelei. And now with Tyson hurt, and I'm not sure, to tell you the truth, I think Hunter Helms was really pushing him for the number 2 spot anyway. But that's a heck of a drop off from a guy who I think he might well win the Heisman, DJ Uiagalelei, just because he's going to be a absolute stat packer plus a good player. That's just a tremendous drop off to a walk on.
We're sitting here talking about all these transfers, and that's actually interesting. If Tyson Pumachan is able to come back to Clemson, but they accept a transfer quarterback out of the portal somewhere, I wonder if he would return to the Tigers program. And Darren and I've talked about this before. Sometimes, like, Clemson is there, right? They're at that elite level. It's Alabama, it's Clemson, it's Ohio State, probably going to throw Oklahoma in there. And then, revolving door of the LSUs and the Georgias of the world, Oregons. But there's like 3 or 4 that I think are really in that stratosphere. But you're really one bad quarterback situation away from dipping out of that thing, Gene. If you don't have that elite guy, most teams, okay, we lost two games. That's a great year. You lose 2 games at Clemson, you don't make the playoffs. That ends a streak. That's a big deal to them now.
Absolutely. And not that many teams could win their way into the playoffs for a full season with a backup quarterback, but a lot of the good teams could have a guy, that could come in and be okay for a few games. Chase Bryce was certainly that kind of guy, and won a huge game against Syracuse for Clemson there. And, they've had guys like that they could depend on. They do not have a guy like that right now.
Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier, 147 on this Tuesday afternoon. Transitioning back to the Gamecocks. Gene, I don't know what's going to happen this year. I do know that the schedule sets up well for them early in the season. So if they're going to be able to get some wins, they should be able to get them early in the year and get off to a good start under Shane Beamer. But now that we've seen a little bit, a smidgen of what that program looks like, what Will Muschamp left behind, what Shane Beamer was able to add to it, I think that there was, as we kind of churned through the spring, most thought, wow, this is just a bad program and it's going to take time for Shane Beamer to rebuild. And I don't know that they're wrong. But after watching them in the spring game, are they maybe not getting enough credit? Are they maybe they have some players, Gene? Are they maybe a little bit better than some are giving them credit for?
The pass rush in the front seven is going to be a lot better than the unit that gave them an SEC low 14 sacks last year. There is zero doubt about that. The question on defense is, without J.C. Horn and Israel Mukwamo, what will the outside coverage be? And, those kind of coverage sacks aren't going to be there. Other offensive coordinators are well aware of trying to pick on inexperienced guys. So that'll be interesting. On offense, what a running back room. You saw Zaquandre White on Sunday, but, he's a guy that's probably behind Kevin Harris and Marshawn Lloyd in August, and maybe by a good bit, but to have 3 good running backs, and I think these guys are going to be able to catch the ball too. But clearly the most exciting part of the team is this ridiculous tight end room that they have. Nick Muse is just a good college football player who I think is the kind of guy that will be a Swiss Army knife guy in the NFL, maybe a long snapper, special teams guy who does come in and play some tight end. E.J. Jenkins, 6'7", or as Eric Kimry, the tight end coach, says, maybe closer to 6'8", or taller. He just keeps growing as the legend grows. And then Jaheim Bell, what he showed on Sunday, that was cool. I mean, this guy was a linebacker, was a tight end, can play running back, wildcat quarterback. Wow. That's just really exciting. And when you have an inexperienced quarterback, to have that kind of tight end talent, that's cool.
Gene, when you look, obviously South Carolina has added some pieces to this puzzle over the last few months under Shane Beamer. You mentioned DJ Jenkins, and there's others, obviously Jason Brown and guys like that. And we'll see. Most of these guys we're not going to really know too much about till the season gets here, or at least August does. But when you look around, and you mentioned all that defensive talent, and you're right, it's there. You look at the running back room, you look at the offensive line. They return everybody up there, essentially. They've got 9 guys who started in the SEC, for goodness sakes. I mean, they're and then you look at last year, they were horrible. They were 2-8. I mean, there's one game that they certainly should have probably won that they didn't, Tennessee. The rest of them, they were terrible. I mean, they just weren't good. When you look back, like, do you ever do that? Do you ever look back looking at some of the guys on this? You just rolled off a bunch of really good players and say, man, what really happened here? Like, what really went wrong? I mean, they're not depleted of talent. It's not like they don't have any players. What the hell was going on by the curtain under Will Muschamp?
Yeah, I mean, you can do the autopsy there and come up with a lot of different things, starting with the Tennessee game. Had they won that game on opening night, maybe just the whole vibe would have been a lot different. I don't know. I think I would just more look at that individually and see what kind of improvement we're going to see from the Jordan Birches of the world, for instance. And I think it's going to be pretty significant. I like these coordinators. I like Clayton White on defense. I like what he's going to try to do. And I think the players really have taken to Marcus Satterfield on offense. You could just hear it in their voices, not just on Sunday on the Zoom presser after the spring game, but just all through spring practice, that they've really taken to him and respect his knowledge. Not that they didn't with Mike Bobo, but this is going to be at least fun progress to watch, although I think it could be a bumpy ride. That trip to East Carolina, I mean, I've got too much respect for Mike Houston to chalk that up as a W for the Gamecocks. And they got kind of a bad draw in, the schedule thing that has them playing Auburn for a second year in a row too.
Well, at least that game's at home. I'm sure Mike Bobo will have a welcoming of sorts back to Williams-Brice Stadium for that one. 1:51 on Tuesday afternoon. Darren, let's throw Gene my bowl idea, because Gene's the type of guy that will write about these things in the paper, and then they can all call him crazy, and I don't have to worry about it. If the playoff committee, Gene, at some point in time decides to expand the playoffs, which I think we all anticipate is going to happen, to what extent we don't know, but more than likely to 6 or 8. It's going to further, I think, devalue bowl season. That's what I personally think. What if we found some type of system to create bowl games to start the season in the future? You could either qualify for them, you could play them on site, you could play them home, wherever. But what if we played the bowl system up front? Would that eliminate opt-outs? Would it create fan excitement and enthusiasm? What do you think about that?
Oh, why not? Let's give it a try. As far as the real bowl season, I saw that 24/7 Sports has already projected a New Year's Six matchup of Notre Dame and Coastal Carolina, which I'm looking forward to already. But yeah, why not play that in August somewhere? Notre Dame, Coastal Carolina in Jacksonville, or here's the thing. Yes. You know how you play all the bowl games in Florida, Texas, California? Let's play the August preseason bowl games up north. We can play it on, Mackinac Island in Michigan, and we can play it in Fargo and some really cool places in Montana. That's what I'm for. So yeah, I like your idea, Jamie.
I'm just trying to find a way to keep value in bowl season. Like, is it? I've always really enjoyed bowl season. I missed the days where you couldn't wait for bowl matchups to be selected, Gene, and those days feel gone to me. I'm trying to find a way to preserve it. Is there another, like, is there another?
I think you need to walk that back and go get your box of Cheez-Its and start looking forward to the Cheez-Its Bowl.
Cheez-Its are good. I mean, I'm cool with that idea too.
No, I'm gonna go get my Bloomin' Onion. I've been to 4 Outback Bowls. Every time we go down there, it's same thing, but it's fun though.
The best thing about the Outback Bowl is there were multiple good things about the Outback Bowl, some of which we can't discuss on the radio, but the noon kickoff is so good for Deadline, okay? But in Tampa at the stadium, it's sponsored by Outback, and you're in the press box, they start bringing out Bloomin' Onions at 11 a.m., It's quite a scene.
Coconut shrimp.
You've been up late the night before, maybe. I don't know. Not me, but some other people were up late the night before.
I'm no longer rooting for the playoffs for the Gamecocks. I don't root anyway, but I am going to root for them to go to the Outback Bowl so I can go cover it and get Bloomin' Onions for hours. Yeah, again.
Dude, Gene, you might remember this. I don't know if you were down there actually covering the game on site or not, but the 2000 Outback Bowl. Were you down there for that one, the first one, the Brewer game?
I was not. I was somewhere else at that point. I don't remember where.
Well, I don't know who's covering South Carolina for the Post and Courier. Then maybe Charles Bennett. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe he was, and Ken Berger would have been down there too.
Well, then they probably remember the next day, it was the day before the game, and they had the beach kickoff. Like, everybody goes to the beach, and the bands show up, and they build these sandcastles.
Right.
The Carolina band didn't show up, and the Ohio State band did, and there's thousands of Carolina fans on the beach, and nobody. And they put out some statement about something. No, that wasn't what happened. Most of them were out the night before, drunk in Ybor City, and they were all hungover, and they couldn't get to the beach the next morning.
Well, and see, right then is when I would have predicted that the Gamecocks were easily going to win the game because they're the team and the fan base and the band base having the most fun.
It was something. It was something. We actually met the drum major for Ohio State. Super nice guy, and believe it or not, probably wanted to move to South Carolina. All right, Gene, what's on the agenda for the Post and Courier? Obviously, a big week coming up for both Clemson and South Carolina in baseball. Gamecocks right now would be considered a regional host. Clemson trying to get back into the field of 64. They've got Louisville and Dan McDonnell coming to the Upstate this week. And generally, the Cardinals struggle at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. But Monty Lee and the Tigers swept through Wake Forest this past weekend. So it's a big week of college baseball in the Palmetto State.
Yeah, I think South Carolina acquitted itself pretty well against the tremendous Arkansas program. No shame in going 1-2 there. Got to try to keep the momentum rolling, relatively speaking, at Ole Miss. That's tough, but Clemson got the necessary sweep against Wake. Louisville, what a great program, but just a little bit on average, relatively speaking, again, kind of not down, I wouldn't say, but Clemson needs to win 2 out of 3. And as far as what's coming up in the Post and Courier, a lot of college baseball and a lot of NFL draft with Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, J.C. Horn, all kinds of guys being, tossed about here for first round possibilities. Of course, Lawrence will be. J.C. Horn going somewhere in those first 12 or 13 picks. And Travis Etienne, maybe he's in the first round too. Who knows?
Yeah, don't say that to Chris Sims. J.C. Horn isn't his type of cornerback.
Well, Trevor Lawrence isn't his type of quarterback, so it's okay.
Yeah, well, I don't know what team he wants to build. Ooh, crazy.
I think J.C. Horn is going to be really, really good in the NFL, like better than probably where he's drafted, because that guy is a competitor, 6'4", and just the fact that his father played, I mean, he knows what to expect, and he's going to walk into that locker room right away and just kind of be a pro.
Trivia question for you real quick before we let you run. What is the highest draft selection in NFL draft history for Clemson football?
Okay, that's going to be Sammy Watkins at 4th overall, or am I forgetting somebody?
You're right.
Was up there too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
One of 4. No, he's 1 of 4. They've had 4 number 4 overall picks in draft history, never a top 3. Of course, that'll change on Thursday. But all the way back to 1940, Banks McFadden, Gaines Adams, Sammy Watkins, and Cleland Ferrell, all 4th.
That's right. There you go. And 2 first overall picks for the Gamecocks.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Gene, thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Good to talk to you. We'll actually recap a lot of this draft stuff next week, and we look forward to as we always do, everything that you put in the Post and Courier. Brilliant stuff. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Jamie and Darren.
Later. You got it. There you go, Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier. All right, we are pretty much out of time here, Darren. Thanks to Gene Sapakoff, Mike Yuva, Mike Morgan. Thanks to Darren Goldwater.
Thank you, man.
Thanks to all of you. We have J.C. Sherbert tomorrow, so we'll be able to recap all this spring football stuff. And Carolina will be monitoring the Twitter waves on Friday night as their top quarterback prospect is set to commit.
Oh, I did not see that. It's only about 2 weeks since he put out his top, 6, 7, whatever.
6 o'clock Friday. He'll make a school of his choice.
Very good.
And that's it. We'll be back tomorrow at noon, and we'll see you then right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.